Welcome to Talk Law Radio with attorney Todd Marquardt of the Marquardt Law Firm at marquardtlawfirm.com.
Welcome back to Talk Law Radio. I'm Todd Marquardt here on 9:30 a.m. The Answer. Podcasts everywhere, Facebook Live, YouTube, and talklawradio.com. Haven't been given much information about the law today because we've been talking so much about how to identify if your family member is losing capacity during the holidays. But you can go to talklawradio.com or YouTube and search for previous episodes. I talk about elder abuse and capacity quite frequently. I'll just mention before we talk about legacy that you do have a duty, an affirmative duty, to report abuse or neglect. And you can search for Adult Protective Services online to find the number or fill out the online form to do that. But since this is the fourth segment, it's our legacy segment.
And now, it's time for the Talk Law Radio Legacy Spotlight. What's your legacy? Sponsored by Marquardt Law Firm.
Candyce, this is the legacy segment because Marquardt Law Firm focuses on business and estate law, including last wills, living trusts, and tax-protected inheritance plans. And so we like to ask you about your legacy and that you tell us something that you inherited or that you plan to leave to your loved ones, or maybe you received something more valuable like life lessons.
Ooh, life lessons. That's probably a favorite. I lost my mom recently, and it was unexpected. So that was a big shock to the family. She was kind of a statistic. She was a caregiver for my dad and my sister's kids a lot. So,
but I'm sure that's what she wanted to do.
That's what she wanted to do. It was her purpose in life,
right.
And she was ready. She was prepared. She didn't, dying's just part of living for us, to take care of ourselves. And she had very strong faith. And so there was no concern about anything like that other than we just really miss her and wish she was with us. But when we talk about what she left us and what her mother left us, because her mother was such, my grandmother, Ma, that I talk about, it's especially for the women in our family, there's an incredible strength that I don't have a daughter. But I hope to pass on to my nieces and maybe my grandchildren someday. How do I say this? We have so much inherent value as women. I probably don't need to just dig into that a whole lot.
Well,
but
maybe you should write it down.
I do need to write it down, actually, now that we're bringing that up. So that'll be another segment. But I think what I've got, recipes. Honestly, I have lots of family recipes that I make every Christmas. Even if I don't eat them, I make them and give them as gifts. And that is something we share in all of our family is, hey, be sure to send me that Mama Ted's tea cake recipe and Granny Jessie's molasses cookies recipe. And my mother made the best pies in all of Texas. And so, as long as we can carry those things on and pass those on to our children and grandchildren, that's a big part of it is, we literally will have conversations about and when we ate these cookies at this, situation. I mean, they were just such a big part of our life. So there's those few things. But then also, my mother would say things like, when you're in turmoil, just be still. And we talk about that as a family. My nephew got a tattoo of that on his wrist.
Oh, wow.
Because Granny would be there to say, just be still.
Yeah.
And, of course, what she means is be still and know that I'm God.
Right.
Just be still and let the answers come to you. So that's beautiful. Kindness of all other things. I mean, help others when you can. Always help others when you can.
It's so nice that you had those family mantras.
Yeah.
Keep everybody together. The family mission.
Right. Absolutely.
That's awesome.
Love them through it. That was another thing my mom would always say. Just love them through it. They're going through a hard time. All you can give them is love.
My mom would say, this too shall pass.
Right. And it usually does.
Right.
Yeah.
You mentioned your collection. Tell us about that.
My husband and I have quite a collection of movie and music memorabilia, posters and cards, and we have a couple of signs. Like we have a JFK signed script by all the cast.
Okay.
And that's one of my favorite pieces, actually. I have an Audrey Hepburn that I just love. So, autographed photos and things. And so that is something that my son is aware. When we get older, he's gonna get to deal with that, and hopefully that'll be sell it for lots of money because we put a lot of money into it. But as these people pass on, those kinds of things go up in value. And so that's our probably our biggest financial legacy at this point to him. Aside from whatever else we leave
the
in retirement.
collection has more value than just the monetary value.
Well, that's true. It does. And we enjoy, we have it up in our game room, and we enjoy spending time in there and looking around. And we're big movie and pop culture buffs, so we enjoy that. It is part of our life. I always say we speak cinema a little bit in our home.
Right.
So, we kind of have conversations in movie quotes sometimes. Right. And that's part of our lifestyle. And my son has picked that up, and hopefully we'll also carry that on.
Yeah. My kids grew up during the time of The Office, so we talk in terms of office lingo. But my mom's dad had a stamp collection.
Oh, wow.
And he died when he was 60 of pancreatic cancer. So nobody really got to talk to him about that.
Oh.
But I have that collection, and I'm sure that I could sell it to somebody for something, but it's like he's there.
Right. It's his.
Right.
Yeah.
He's there with me, even though he died when I was a little kid. Another thing is my dad collected books and tapes, so he would learn while he was driving, because he was an eye doctor and he had a practice in our hometown, and then he had a practice in another town that was about 45 minutes away. And so he said, all of this shall be yours someday. Tapes.
So do you have a way to listen to those tapes?
Not right now, but I'm sure I'll find something. A CPA friend of mine was bragging about a little cassette player, a Walkman, that he found at a yard sale the other day.
I do have a little boombox that still has a cassette tape player in it that does work. Although we've found some ways to make art out of some of our old cassette tapes. We have a lamp that we made from some Pinterest.
Oh, really?
Yeah, my husband found this thing on Pinterest, and we spent like 3 days making a lamp out of all of our cassette tapes. It's pretty cool looking.
I bet. That's cool.
Yeah. I have a few legacy pieces that my grandmother, that were hers, things that she loved that I was able to obtain, that I love, that I will pass on. The further the generations go, when you don't know that person, when there's no personal connection, it's harder to attach to those things.
That's right.
Maybe that has value for me and nobody else, and that's okay.
But if you write it down, you could start telling the stories.
Absolutely.
My mom started to do that. She had this little toy cat that was my mama's, her mother, when she was just a little girl. So it doesn't look like what a toy cat would look like these days. But she told us about it, or else that would have been lost. We would have been like, this is a piece of junk.
Right.
But now we know that it's a family heirloom.
Afghans. I have like 4 Afghans that my grandmother, my dad's mother, and she died when I was 9 of metastatic breast cancer. And they're hideous, some of them. The colors they chose in the 70s were a little off for me. But it doesn't matter. They're warm and they last. And if I need them, I've always got those extra blankets. And I have some quilts that my great-grandmother made by hand. And I just love those. They're soft, but you can't really use them because they'll tear because they're just so old. I love things like that.
We have a very strong history of quilts from both my wife's grandparents and mine.
Yeah.
So we have lots of quilts.
We also have a CD collection that are also now kind of outdated and hard to use. Who has a CD player? Even in new cars, you can't play a CD. We probably have 3,000 or more CDs. What do we do with them? That's not. So my son's like, can I just put them all on streaming, so I don't have to deal with these and throw them out. Whatever you got to do, kid. I don't care, you know. But we did pass on our love of music. I mean, I love music from the, you know, the crooners from the 50s, the 60s on 6 on Sirius XM is what's on my radio all the time. I love that stuff because my dad was a Konope fan.
We need to talk about MUSIC.
Oh, Music Project, yeah.
Tell us about that.
So Music Project came about because my husband and I were becoming empty nesters, and so we thought, well, let's just create another job that's thankless with no pay. So we created a nonprofit, right? And my husband is in music promotion, and we've done house concerts and things. And so we decided to create this idea where local musicians could volunteer in helping the elderly, the infirm, and underprivileged children. And so that started in 2013, and we did stuff with the pre-K for SA with all those campuses.
Well, tell us the science behind it.
Okay, the science behind the music and memory part.
Yeah.
Okay, so we connected with music and memory, and the science behind that is that beloved music that we know and listened to and sang in our formative years, right? Starting about 9 or 10 when we started to have our own music taste until about 25, or when your frontal lobe is fully formed.
Yeah.
The songs during those times for us, we will never forget. And so you see, there's lots of examples. If you've never seen a Live Inside, go to YouTube and look up a Live Inside Henry video. It's about 6 minutes. It is a perfect example of what happens to the brain and the mind when it is trapped by something like Alzheimer's or a different type of dementia. But when that recognizable music that is stored, the memory attached to that music is stored in the frontal temporal lobe. And to see someone who's been formerly trapped inside their mind to just open wide up and become themselves again because of a piece of music that they loved. We were able to help, the quality monitoring program through HHS to facilitate music and memory in the local nursing facilities as part of a bigger project, because Texas was 49th in the worst offenders for over-medicating our dementia residents in nursing homes. And within 4 years of using that program, Music and Memory, as well as the virtual dementia tour, and giving people other types of perspectives and options other than just pharmacological medication for dealing with behaviors, we dropped down to 24th. In 4 years. So that was tremendous.
I need to add that to my medical power of attorney.
Yes, you do. Make your playlist now.
I want to listen to when I'm demented.
Yes, you do. Make your playlist now. I tell that to everybody. Go back to the music you loved when you were a kid. Because, again, those CDs and the tapes and the records that you played before, now vinyl's coming back. But it's hard. Your kids aren't going to be able to access those if they don't know what you loved.
Yeah.
So you need to line that out.
Okay.
Make sure they understand.
That's a great
that's
point.
important because, I have music on all the time for me. So when I need help, because I'm betting that I'm going to be the one of the two of us with dementia, I want my music playing. And just because I don't have the capacity to go turn the radio on anymore, doesn't mean I don't need that. That's going to be my legacy.
Okay.
I want my music on.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. It was fun.
That's it for today. Talk to you later.
This has been Talk Law Radio with attorney Todd Marquardt, brought to you by the Marquardt Law Firm. You can learn more at marquardtlawfirm.com. And be sure to listen to the full Talk Law Radio show Saturday mornings at 11 on 9:30 a.m. The Answer.
Each week, attorney Todd Marquardt talks about the law. His mission with the Talk Law Radio show and podcast is to help you discover your legal issue blind spots. In the beginning, God had one law. Don't eat from the fruit of that tree. Then came the 10 Commandments. Now we have federal, state, and municipal lawmakers that won't stop creating new laws. Laws that might impact you without you knowing it. Listen to the show and drop a line on Facebook or email host@talklawradio.com and let the host know what you think of the show, the topics you want to hear, and whether you want to be a guest.